So many of us have heard that girls are mean, that women are catty, that we're competitive, that we're shallow, we get in cat fights, we cliquey. We've heard all of these things for so long that we believe them to be true. We experience life through those lenses. So therefore, whenever anything happens to us that like somehow we think fits that, we read it through that lens. I want to talk a moment about languaging, of the languaging we're using with each other. I don't think it's serving us. I mean, it's serving us in an initial moment because if we can create a story around like those girls are mean or they're just a clique, then we think it's making us feel better about ourselves. But what it's actually doing is creating a victim mentality, and it's devaluing others. You know, if we watch our children suffer and get treated at school in a way that doesn't help them feel like they belong. And our temptation is to often say, it's okay, they're just mean girls, honey. And we think that we're somehow doing them a favor. But what we're doing is our words end up creating what we think about each other. And what we think about each other impacts how we end up acting with each other. And so we've created this whole cultural belief, if you will, that we can't trust each other, that we aren't nice to each other. And we have so much evidence on the contrary, and yet our brain wants to keep believing the evidence that says we can't trust each other, we're mean, we're horrible people, and that's really damaging. You've seen the research a couple years ago, it was really big, where we talked a lot about how we use different gender bias words for each other. You know, in girls it's bossy, but in boys it's good leadership. During the political season, you can watch two women talk back and forth on TV and it's considered catty, or they were in a cat fight. And you have two men go back and forth and they're debating. And, we talk about women as old, we talk about men as experienced. There's so many great experiences or moments and words and examples of times where we are using words that end up devaluing each other. And so really wanting to draw attention to how we talk about one another. Our brain is making it think that if we feel excluded, that we will benefit if we devalue the other person. But you can't put someone else down without it coming back and hurting you. It builds distrust in yourself. It prevents you from being accepting and from opening up and from showing up in a way that invites a different response. If we devalue and we just label somebody as mean girls, then our actions will reflect that belief. Whereas if we end up saying those were girls that probably didn't even know they were hurting you, or maybe they did a mean thing even. Maybe we can say, yes, it was a mean thing. Or maybe it wasn't even a mean thing and it was simply just this girl didn't feel accepted, but they didn't actually do anything mean. So we can start kind of having a conversation about what happened. And let's kind of challenge ourselves to not feel like we need to label somebody and figure out, are you bad or are you mean? Or maybe it's somebody who sometimes does mean things. It's kind of like I get so irritated sometimes at how we believe the worst about each other so easily. When somebody does something negative, we then say, now we're seeing their true colors. I'm like, why don't we believe that when we see somebody do something generous and loving, that we're like, now we're seeing their true colors? Why are we so quick to believe the worst? Why is it if somebody's been nice, and then they do something, we say, oh, it was a sheep in wolf in sheep's clothing, as though now, they've just been deceiving us with all the nice stuff. But we never do the flip side. We never have somebody who does something mean, and then say, oh, they did something nice, and like, oh, maybe they're really a nice person. What if it's just a little more nuanced than that? What if all of us are doing the best we can, and sometimes we act out of our hurts, and sometimes we might do something that's mean, and sometimes we don't even know it, and sometimes we can be nice here and loving and do something mean and hurtful, and it doesn't mean we're only one or the other? What if we can stop using language that needs to devalue somebody else simply because we feel hurt? What if we can hold the hurt and just ask ourselves, what happened here, really, without me having to put a story to it? And what explanation is possible that would say nothing that makes me feel like a worse person, and that maybe this isn't personal, and that I'm a bad person, that I was left out for reasons, that they were malicious, that they hurt me, that I'm not good enough, but it also doesn't devalue the other person and automatically have to make them bad? What if all of us need to be loved and belonging, and we're just doing the best we can, and we're gonna mess up? We aren't trained, we're not taught, we're not all practicing with awareness, but more and more of us are. And so let's have compassion on those who aren't yet. We didn't always know what we know now, and let's show up and be the people who model believing in each other, assuming the best of each other, speaking words that uplift other women. Let's practice catching ourselves in our negative talk, in our labeling, in our devaluing of ourselves and others, and choose to be the women who don't go out there and use simplified little versions of like, well, she's just jealous and da-da-da-da-da. That's not helping anyone. What happened here, and how can I show up in this moment to practice building greater compassion, greater strength, greater emotional health? How can I show value to this other person? How can I show value to myself? Hard, yes, but so, so meaningful. Let's try.